Josh, you being a convicted felon.
So I am a felon. So my gun rights don't exist.
Ooh, that looks good.
How do we get kids to stop shooting each other? So am I in a hole?
Yeah, you're in a hole.
You know the really cool thing though about playing indoors is I'm not gonna lose a ball today.
See my ball anywhere?
Man, that's $1 billion question right there. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Cops and Convicts. It's me, Josh Lair.
And Rodney Bamford.
And this week we are at Creekside, but we are obviously indoors on the simulator, which is kind of cool because the weather's not that great outside. So we get to play somewhere far away, but still yet at our club. So today we're gonna cover a cool topic, Measure 114, which is a gun law deal that's going on here in Oregon that is gaining some national attention. And we're gonna talk about this while playing Black Desert Resort in Utah while in Salem, Oregon. So this should be a lot of fun and pretty interesting.
Yeah, and for those that aren't aware, ballot measure 114 was passed by the Oregon voters in November of 22, and then was put on hold because of a court decision down in southeastern Oregon, Harney County, and then it was just overturned by the Court of Appeals and is now probably going to be appealed to the Oregon Supreme Court. But this law has a lot of implications and a lot of questions in my book from a lot of standpoints. So we'll talk about it and get into it more as we go.
Yeah, which is really kind of going to be funny for some of this because, with the name of our show, Cops and Convicts, obviously I was the convict, and so I am a felon. So my gun rights don't exist. However, I do still have some pretty strong feelings about gun laws and what that looks like for those that aren't felons. And again, I think it's going to be pretty interesting and probably not what most people would think would be coming out of my mouth. So this will be a lot of fun.
And in contrast to this, with my background in law enforcement, a lot of people might think I'm going to be slanted one way, or and I kind of am, but maybe not in the way most people are going to think. So
yeah,
this
should be fun.
Let's get it going.
Yeah,
I'm kind of itching here.
Yeah. All right. Hole number 1, Black Desert, par 4, 400 yards. Let's see what we can do. You know the really cool thing though about playing indoors is I'm not gonna lose a ball today.
We'll see about that.
That would be lost.
Not bad though, 277. I think I want to move my aiming point.
Nice drive. Really nice.
Wow.
Where's my ball? Is that my ball right there?
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't really have a shot there because you're up against this rock face.
Yeah.
So we probably want to move you. I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do there.
I'm gonna go out towards the bunker. There.
Here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go about right there.
Okay,
That's
so it's 136 yards to that bunker-ish.
All right.
Oh, good shot.
Nice. So what exactly is Measure 114?
Measure 114 is a law that was voted in, and the premise of this law was to promote some gun safety and to reduce the risk of homicide and suicide in the state of Oregon. And what the writing of the law is basically now requiring a permit for somebody to purchase a gun. And part of that permit process, they have to pay a fee, obviously. They have to submit to a background check, fingerprints, and it's got to go through an entity within the state, presumably the Oregon State Police, and it also says local law enforcement. But there's also some other things with it that you have to, if you're applying for permit, you have to have receive training on gun safety, and they're requiring some proficiency with purchasing a firearm, and then before you can be issued it. And then there's a time frame where they have 30 days to say yes or no to the permit, and then the permit is only valid for 5 years. At the end of that 5 years, you have to reapply and obtain a new permit, and then there's another fee involved with that. In addition to that, the law removes high-capacity magazines, so you wouldn't be able to have a magazine that holds more than 10 rounds in it. And this is, again, to stop mass casualties in a mass shooting situation. That is the thought process behind it. However, in my opinion, there's several problems with this new law. One of which, nothing that I've found written in the legislation prescribes exactly what type of training needs to take place, who's going to provide that, other than it's got to be an approved vendor through the Oregon State Police, but there's no guidance or criteria as to what these vendors have to jump through and what they have to, what their curriculum is going to be, other than there's training on what current gun laws are and how to handle a gun safely. There isn't any other training with it or prescribed. So I could just say, yeah, you can't carry a gun here, or you can't carry a gun there, and you have to conform to these things. It doesn't spell out any other training with it. And with the high-capacity magazines, there's really no evidence to say that 10 rounds versus 15 rounds in a typical handgun magazine for a semi-automatic weapon is going to do anything to save lives. I mean, people train. I mean, military people train, law enforcement train, bad guys train on how to change a magazine quickly. So, you can quickly reload a Glock handgun, or a SIG, or a Beretta, or whichever manufacturer you want to call out there as a semi-automatic. If you're trained, you can reload a magazine in under 2 seconds. People that are really fast, that train a lot, can probably do it in about a second, or maybe even slightly less. So is that 5 rounds really going to make a difference? I mean, bad guys are just going to start carrying more magazines on them. I mean, these are just a couple of snippets from it. Let's see, how far am I here? 139.
Whoa, that was interesting. Yeah, I put mine in the bunker.
Well, I'm going to try not to do that. Whoa, lost my balance.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, I kind of like the simulator. So, Josh, you being a convicted felon,
Yeah.
a gun law like this that's going to require your normal citizen to go and go through background checks, fingerprints, training classes, and all this. What does that say to you, or how would you feel about that, looking at it from your former self?
So every time I've been in trouble or had to go to prison, there was weapons involved. So it's never, that law, being a convicted felon and not being able to own or possess a firearm, never stopped me. Never changed whether or not I had a gun or not. So I don't think that this ballot measure is going to do anything to stop any criminal activity from happening, period. I mean, there's more weapons with criminals than there probably are with people that have the right to own weapons. I think that a law like this has some positive things. I think that people should get a background check. I think that they should have some proficiency in being able to use a weapon. I don't think that, you know, it's no different than, for me, it's no different than, you know, driving a car. It's something that can kill a lot of people if you're not careful, right? And so you have to get driver training before you get your license and all of those things that we do. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with wanting people to have a background check, to have some proficiency around firearms, to even know where they can and cannot have a firearm, right? Like, you can't walk into the police department carrying a weapon. Even if you have a license to carry a concealed weapon, you can't. So understanding some of that stuff, I think, is great. Making it 30 days, that's insane. You know, I thought California's laws were pretty crazy around their background situation, you know, but that's 7 days, not 30, right? So I think it's pretty nuts. I honestly believe that all it's doing is hindering the protection of people that have the right to carry them. Because these laws don't stop criminals from being criminals.
Right. So you previously, if you wanted to have a gun, or somebody that was similar to you wanted to have a gun, did you go to a gun store or a pawn shop to buy a gun?
No, you can't.
No. Where did you get it? You bought it from somebody on the street, or you went and committed a burglary of a house and stumbled across one?
Yes.
In theory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't necessarily agree. I agree with everything you're saying, you know, the training, background stuff, but there's got to be some infrastructure in place before this law gets enacted, and
absolutely,
to streamline it. You know, we talked, you know, in previous episodes about the failures of ballot measure 110.
Yeah.
And that there was no infrastructure in place at the time that the law went into effect for that program to succeed and do what it needed to do. This is just as bad.
Same trajectory.
In fact, I just spoke with one of the local leaders in law enforcement here in Marion County, and I was told that there hasn't been anything mentioned at all from the district attorney's office, the Department of Justice, on what they're supposed to do with this, how they're supposed to regulate any of this or enforce it. Not to mention that there's several sheriffs that have, across the state of Oregon that have openly went out and said that they're not going to enforce it. So what's the purpose and the point of having a law if it can't or won't be enforced?
Well, again, it's not going to stop bad guys from being bad guys.
There you go.
So if that's the intention, they have zero understanding of criminal. None. Because it's not going to stop us. Well, I shouldn't say us, because that's not me anymore.
So it gave me a 2-putt from
13 feet.
13 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's set to tour average.
Okay. So we're 350 yards.
You're even on +3. Want to give a huge shout out to Good. Their clothing, absolutely amazing. Super comfortable. I have one of the Masters polos on under. One of the things that I love is that they're flexible, but the collar stays, like, I've had this shirt for a couple months and the collar still stands up. Doesn't do the, you know, like some of the shirts.
Don't flatten out like this one.
It flattens out. They don't. Pretty stinking comfy.
Not to mention it's a good looking sweatshirt.
Yes, that too.
You guys don't putt
No, it just gives. This isn't like TGL where they have this $1 million putting green that they can.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to all, as members here, just pitch in, get to $90 million so we can build one here. Smashed.
That one felt a little more towy.
Yeah, I find it interesting, you know, when you have law enforcement professionals that are saying they're not going to enforce things like that. Like, then at what point, like, what does that end up looking like, right? That's a interesting dynamic.
Well, and what's interesting here with this measure, when it was passed by the voters in 22, it was narrowly passed. It passed with 50.7% of the vote, and in particularly or specifically, there was 969,215 yes votes across the state for the measure, and it was just slightly less than that for the no votes.
Wow.
The other interesting thing is the vote only passed in 6 of the 36 counties in the state of Oregon.
Is it me?
Yeah, it's you again. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's still you, I think. Ooh, that looks good.
I would imagine that out of that voting, the 6 counties, it would probably be Washington, Multnomah, Clackamas, probably the bigger northern city counties.
Clackamas, I don't have the list in front of me. I don't think Clackamas was one of the yes vote counties.
Nice.
But I believe you're right. It was Multnomah, Washington, I want to say Lincoln County, and then I think there was a couple others up north, like maybe Columbia or County. But even of the 6 on the map that I saw, even of the 6 counties that passed it, the margins for I think 3 of those were fairly slim on the passing side. So you know that 50 to maybe 60% voted yes versus some of the other ones that were a little bit stronger. But yeah, the results of that election, which are typical of Oregon, everything comes out of that one little central area where the greatest population is. But a large portion of the state,
Not in favor.
Yeah, not in favor of it. Tugged it a little bit. Uh-oh. Oh, yeah. Nice par, Josh.
Yay. After a triple on the first?
And I got a bogey.
All right, what is this? Hole 3, par 3.
Yeah, 161 yards.
Or let's go straight off into the desert. Wow.
Oh, I think he got some kick off of those rocks.
Wow.
Oh, it's playing down 29 feet.
Well, let's see what we can do off some rock.
So one thing I feel that's important for our viewers to know is, on this topic, is I am all for gun safety and for, to lower and stop mass casualty shootings, and things like that, suicide, homicide. But what I'm not in support of is how this is going. I don't think this is, to me, it's very similar to the drug epidemic. And what I mean by that is we throw all these resources, or not necessarily resources, but we institute all these laws to try and stop a pattern of behavior. And it's not working.
You know what else is not working? My golf game.
It's a pretty good chip right there. I feel like we would be better served to give law enforcement some tools back in getting guns off the streets. We've had so many changes in the law with case law as far as what officers can do in trying to solve crimes that their hands are getting tied.
Yeah.
And they just can't do what they need to do. And it's kind of the same thing with when we were fighting, so quote unquote, the war on drugs. Part of me wonders with like some of the video games and the movies out there. Now, I'm like everybody else, I like a nice action-packed movie, you know, but these days action-packed movies, what do they have? They have violence in them. You know, people going in and shooting people, and then you have the games, you know, that the kids are playing. And while I know it wasn't the creator's intent, it was more of an entertainment thing. But a lot of these games desensitize kids to actually killing, you know, shooting and killing. And so they're not really thinking about the ramifications of actually taking a gun and pulling the trigger against somebody. If we really want to stop mass suicide or mass homicide and some of those things, we need to take a look at some of this other stuff too to see how it's impacting our kids and adults for that matter in the way their brain is functioning. Rather than pass legislation that's going to take things out of people's hands and make everyday citizens criminals, let's change that and let's look at what's causing people to do these things.
Yeah, so I that's one thing I don't agree. I don't believe that it's video games because, like, you know, I played Frogger when I was a kid, and I've never wanted to go run out in the middle of the street and try to not get hit by a car. You know, and coming from a criminal lifestyle of utilizing weapons for things, it's different to actually follow through with pulling the trigger towards another human being. It's different. I don't care how many video games you play. Actually doing it is different.
I think I would agree with you there. And I'm not a psychologist, and I haven't read all the studies, but I still think that it might have some effect on it, and I think there's probably some literature out there that would suggest that as well. I'm not saying that is the key to solving this issue. I mean, there's lots of different things that are causing this issue, but where we're going with gun laws trying to reduce the number of people or the number of guns out there isn't necessarily going to solve the problem.
It's not going to do anything to stop crime.
Correct.
Nothing. Not even a little bit. You know, when you start looking at like our state alone, instead of putting all the money investing into, you know, these gun laws, like why aren't we investing in mental health? Like people need access to getting help to talk about why they're in the position that they're in. Nice. Really nice drive.
Oh, stump tail in there. Oh, good kick.
Is that like a member bounce?
That must have been. That was smoked. Get a little right.
Nope.
You're drawing everything big time.
Big time.
So we need to move you way over.
Well, at least I didn't end up in those people's yard. Because that's a beautiful house over there.
So.
Yeah, so I think that Chief Womack from the Salem Police Department who really pushed for these gun violence, like the gun study. He's a really smart guy, really nice guy. I know that they're still running their thought process behind what that's going to look like in the overall outcomes. When you start looking at, for Marion County, where we live, I think it's like 80% of the gun violence is kids that are under the age of 18. So we have a huge gun violence problem, and it's predominantly our youth that are involved in these things. So I know as someone that sits on the board of Oregon Recovers, right? So organization that is actively trying to pursue different avenues with our legislation around treatment and drug issues. One of the things that we're running into and seeing is prevention money gets taken all the time, right? So it's hard to prevent youth from getting involved in drugs and gangs and criminal activity because the money that's supposed to be used for prevention gets taken and reallocated to other things, right? So even with the study that Chief Womack and Sheriff Hunter have been pursuing and looking at here in our county, we just continue to fall short in areas that I think could help detour these things when it comes to criminal activity, gun violence with our youth, drugs, all of that stuff. If we had more access to prevention money, good education. I think that, I don't know if you looked it up or not, Rodney, but when we were talking the other day, I think it's, is it Switzerland?
It's Sweden.
Sweden?
I did not look it up, but yeah.
So I believe it's one of those countries over there, the government provides them with ammunition and a rifle. Every military aged person, and they have the smallest crime rate and the smallest homicide rate. I think it's a huge deterrent for most people. If I know you have a gun and that you know how to use it, I'm definitely going to think twice about whatever it is that my intentions are, right? Because you have to be really to not think about losing your life in that moment.
Yeah, I kind of just kind of popped into my head with what you said just a few minutes ago, but when it takes a whole different mindset to actually pull that trigger.
100%.
And so a lot of times I wonder, people that are out committing crimes, doing robberies and whatnot, they're using the gun as a tool of intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they encounter somebody else that now has a gun of their own, now they have to make that decision as to whether or not they're going to pull the trigger. And the fact that they might lose their own life, instead of just intimidating somebody, changes their mindset. And so, like I said, I agree. I mean, the more people that are armed, let me rephrase that, the more responsible people that are armed, in some likelihood may keep people from committing some of those crimes because they don't want to when they pick their victim, they're going to think twice about who they're picking as their victim as opposed to, it's likely I have a gun and you don't, so I'm going to be able to take your money.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about our government and our military service, right? So, I went through boot camp and I know what they train and teach you to do. And the entire time, you're doing exercises and you're yelling and chanting, kill, kill, kill. And even with all of the training that our men and women go through and our for our armed forces, and they get sent overseas, and you constantly hear reports about people freezing, right? In the middle of getting shot at, they freeze. And that's with constant training for those situations. And so it definitely takes a different mindset to actually follow through with pulling the trigger to take another human being's life. It does. Do I think that video games and things desensitize people? Maybe. But again, it's a whole different ball game, man, to actually point that weapon at another human being and pull that trigger.
Agreed.
It's not, yeah, that's not just the norm by any means. 198, and it says a 4 hybrid from the rocks.
Do you want to change that to
a 5 iron?
To a 5 iron?
But is that like?
So this is straight, but you're looking into a rock face, it looks like.
So am I in a hole? I'm in a hole.
You're in a hole.
So let's just go right out here. I tell you what, I'm thankful that this is a simulator and not real, because
you'd be running your clubs.
Yeah, my clubs would be destroyed with as many rocks as I'm in. Sit down. Do it.
See how bad my swing is here, trying to overswing.
What would it be, an albatross?
An albatross is, let's see, an eagle is two under par, so it'd be 3 under par.
What, so it'd be a hole in one?
It'd be a hole in one. On a par 4.
Come on, Bryson can do it.
If I hit a hole in one here on a par 4, I'm gonna do the Happy Gilmore dance. No, I didn't draw. Need that member kick. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I had no idea that this is where we were actually playing.
That one sounded smoked. Where did it? What's it doing?
I don't know.
Oh, it's just now coming down. So that looks like that's got to be you.
So I went all the way over to that, then out and back?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you're 132 yards out. You want a 9 iron, or you want
132 yards out on a 208. So I just drove it 150 yards.
it? Yeah, I had to hit a rock and come back. I think that's what it was trying to. That's what it was doing. Is it gonna let me get up over that? We'll try. See what happens.
Have you tried this yet, Rodney?
What is it?
This is the For Wellness. This is the Phil Mickelson products.
I have not.
This is the Hibiscus Cherry Restore gummies. Really good. Blueberry Hydration gummies are good too.
Yeah, and with the, what was it? I saw a video clip with then Superintendent Terry Davey talking about it shortly after the bill was passed, and she said that they were working on things and setting things up. But yeah, there is. Well, let's go back. We talked about the infrastructure really isn't there, at least that I'm aware of yet, for them to do that. And yet the law says that they have 30 days to report one way or another if a permit can be issued. I don't know how they're going to do that. If this law goes into effect today or in a month from now, 2 months from now, if they're going to have that set up yet. So it's just going to be keeping people that want to purchase a firearm from being able to do so for who knows how long. I know that there's a lot of people that have been going out and purchasing firearms in the last couple of weeks. I helped a friend purchase one here not too long ago from a local gun dealer, and they said they were selling a lot of firearms and to kind of get in before all this goes into effect.
It's going to be really difficult too, Rodney. You start looking at like the Second Amendment, right? The right to bear arms. That's a big component of what a lot of people are going to be focused on. Is
it you or is it still me?
That's me.
Okay.
You start to impede on people's Second Amendment rights, right? It's saying that yes, you can have a gun, but we're going to tell you like what, when, how.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's where a lot of this stuff really starts to get weird and wonky in that. And I personally, again, as a felon, I don't believe that the government should be more armed than its citizens. We vote to put them in the place of power, not for them to limit us. They're supposed to help us, not take away from us. So I also don't so I have some different views. I don't think that the government should be more powerful than the people.
Well, you're correct. The Second Amendment issue is the big issue here, and I know that that was some of the arguments raised in the initial lawsuit to stop this ballot measure. And the Oregon Court of Appeals said that the law facially was within the guidelines of the Constitution. I have a little knowledge of the law. I don't have the scholarly knowledge in how to apply all of this. And hopefully it will be sorted out and worked out with whatever is correct.
Yeah.
The problem is there's differing views on what the Constitution says and
how interpretation
and how it's interpreted. So, what you and I may think may not be what somebody else thinks how it applies, and so we just have to have some faith that those people that are in those positions are going to make the best decision based on what our founding fathers wanted when they implemented the Constitution.
Rodney, one of the things I really love about doing this with you is that we obviously, wow. I didn't know that the front of the green
sloped off like that. I didn't either.
I love the fact that we can have, similar views and then yet different at the same time. And we continue to prove that you can have these conversations and them not need to be what a lot of them end up in other arenas.
Yeah, and we've said it before, you have to have conversations and have open minds. And I struggle with having an open mind a lot of times, but I know that's the best thing to do, to have conversations and to really truly think about what somebody else is saying and where they're coming from. And I also think that in today's society, we got to stop jumping to conclusions and thinking one thing is going to fix everything, because it's not.
No.
We have to think things out and think about everybody as a whole versus a few.
Yeah.
And to hopefully somebody's brighter people than you and I, you're a lot brighter than I am, will figure out how to get that done.
Yes.
Okay.
I do want to put this out there also in regards to this course that we're playing. It's a PGA course.
Are we playing from the PGA tips or the tour?
Yes. We're not playing from the tips, we're playing from the blues.
Okay.
We're not playing from the tips, we're playing from the blues.
So what are the next steps for 114? Where's it going now? Or what's
The Supreme Court, right?
Yeah, right now it's going, it just got through the Court of Appeals, and so they remanded it back to the state court to basically say that the law is valid, that the measure is a valid or lawful measure. Now the groups that were opposed to 114 are going to appeal it, or have said they're going to appeal it to the Oregon Supreme Court. And they had, I think it's 35 days to file their motions from, I think it was about March 12th or so is when the last ruling came out. So we should be hearing something here in the next couple of weeks. Well, it depends on what you're defining as the problem they're trying to solve. Because there's arguments, the arguments that were written on the measure were to reduce gun violence. And so that's what it's listed at. There are some opponents to the measure that are saying that that's not the case, that the problem is they're trying to take away guns. It's a gun control issue that they're.
Do we know if there's any statistics behind people that commit these crimes that we're afraid of people committing, whether they're legal, law-abiding citizens, or are they something else? What is this thing doing to me?
You're hitting off the lava rock.
Back into the fairway?
But you let it back out in the middle of the fairway. I hope it shows. Look at all those bounces.
Where I hit, though, was 264 yards out.
Yeah.
And it put me back to 135. How do we get kids to stop shooting each other? Man, that's a $1 billion question right there. Again, I think prevention, right? Education, prevention. Most of these kids that are involved in these shootings in Marion County are underprivileged, lower class areas, gang and drugs, all of those things, right? I think ultimately it's prevention. Like, how do we change the dynamics of the environment? How do we incorporate other things? The government is constantly, school boards are constantly removing after school projects, after school programs, band, drama, like all of these things, all of these activities aren't readily available for our youth anymore. I think a big component of it is prevention.
Yeah, prevention and it's hard because it's about values within the home and in the family too. And so it's hard to say what values and things are being taught in the homes. And I know there's a lot of people out there, a lot of good people working, and you can't control, just like with drug addiction, it's kind of a classless crime. But I'm trying to figure out how to say this. If the parents aren't able to be home and have and keeping tabs on their kids with some of this other stuff, they're going to be out doing things, trying to occupy their time. And so, and some kids fall to drug abuse. And then when you, as you know, you start using drugs, you start searching for other things to find whatever it is you're looking for.
True. And
your after-school programs and stuff being cut, that doesn't help, because where do these kids go if they don't have the social pressure to be on the sports field or in the gym or in the drama club or whatever it is that they're doing? They're going out looking for something to do, and that usually leads to bad places.
All right, again, thank you so much for tuning in. And with this topic on Measure 114 and the gun laws, it is not a finished conversation, for sure.
No, there's a lot, and we don't know what's going to happen with it in the Supreme Court. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot more to talk about as things move forward.
And I really appreciate what you said, entrusting those that are way smarter than us, that are really diving into the language behind the written rules and laws to come to the right conclusion about this. But in that, we definitely have some people that we can reach out to and that play golf and are experts in this area that we could bring on. And so I think that would be really cool for us to look into, for sure.
Yeah, and then we also have some other guests coming up that are really exciting, and hopefully we'll be able to get them on soon. And hey, and we need your help. We need to get the word out. We need more subscribers. And if you have topics that you want us to talk about or guests you want us to bring on, please reach out, leave a comment in the comments section so we can make that happen.
Yeah, again, thank you so much to Creekside Golf Club and allowing us to use the simulator so that we're not out in the rain. Really thankful and appreciative. And then a huge shout out to Bryce Funk, our camera guy, for faithfully always showing up prepared to deal with whatever silliness we bring his way. So again, thank you, and hit the like and subscribe.
Yep.